So, you got yourself a sparrow's pick. You want to try it out. So you pick yourself up a shiny Abus 8840 because, I mean, how hard can it be, right? You stick the pick in. You waggle it around like crazy. You get absolutely no feedback whatsoever. Seriously, you might as well be slapping yourself in the face with a stick of salami because it's just as likely to open the lock and you'll have something nice to eat when you get bored. What you want to do, you want to start small. Get something decent but with a cheap Chinese core. Look at this beauty here. 7 discs of pure garbage wrapped in a pretty body. But there are no false gates, the feedback is decent, and they can all be front tensioned. So how do you know? Well, what you do is you turn the first disc and only the first disc all the way. Then you stick the pick in, and if it doesn't go all the way, like that, you add some spacers, just to take up the difference. You use washers, because they're dirt cheap. You're tensioning clockwise, so trying to set the disc in that direction adds to the friction from the sidebar, killing feedback, making your life much more difficult than it needs to be. Don't do it. Turn everything clockwise before you start. This one seems controversial for some reason. There are people who seem to think you need loads of tension to bind the discs. Don't do it. Feedback comes from forcing the sidebar into the discs. It's a solid piece of metal, you're not going to bend it. What you're going to do is you're going to break the lock, or your pick, or both. Can't stress this one enough. When you first put the pick in, it should slide right in and out without any friction, just like, well, use your own imagination. If it doesn't, you're doing it wrong. Once you have it straight though, remember that feeling. Ooh yeah. You know, you can take advantage of the way a disc detainer lock works to get a bit of a head start. When the sidebar gets pushed into a gate at one end, it lifts out at the other a bit like a seesaw, which absolutely kills the feedback at that end, but can't kind of help it at the other end. So, start whichever end you think has a zero-cut disc and move away from it. It doesn't always work, but it works most of the time. What you're feeling for when you try and set a disc is a disc that is a little bit grindy at first, but that when you turn it, suddenly frees up, just for a little bit of a gap. So you can slide it a tiny little bit to the left and to the right with no friction at all, or almost no friction at all. You might get a click, you might not. It's quite important that you're just doing this by feel. If you don't get anything back from a disc, leave it the heck alone. It could be that it's zero cut, moving it will take it out of its gate. It could just be that it hates you and doesn't want to play. In either case, take the high ground, walk away with your head held high. This is more an addition to point 4. If you overset a disc, and you absolutely will, release the tension before trying to turn it back or terrible things could happen. Well, not that terrible. Not Cthulhu-like eldritch horrors crawling out of your wardrobe terrible. More, damn, I broke my picking tick terrible. Which, now I think about it, is really more of an inconvenience. So you followed all the rules, you've done everything right, and the epoxy padlock still isn't opening. What gives? Well, good news, it's not you. Unless, of course, it is, in which case you need to practice more. Most likely, though, is that the front disc isn't zero cut, which means it isn't in a gate when you start picking. Thing is, there has to be a zero cut disc in that lock, otherwise it wouldn't open even with the key, and you can transfer the tension onto it with the picking tip. Hopefully you were paying attention as you went through the lock, but you can always check the key if you get stuck. Either way, find that disc, put the tip on it, turn it clockwise, tension the lock, then counter rotate the tension nose, and voila!